Hi, it's time for Street Talk, your voice and your views on the issues in the news. There's only one problem with a lavish lifestyle. It's easy to get carried away. And that's what's been happening in Dubai, it seems. The booming economy, growing infrastructure and generally can-do atmosphere have led to a few people doing what they shouldn't, borrowing too much money. Nearly 40% of those in jail in the small but famous Gulf Emirate are people who can't pay off their debts. More than 1,200 people sit in Dubai's central prison because they took out loans to buy expensive homes and cars, but were never able to make the repayments. The fact that Dubai doesn't have a central credit checking system means that it can be too easy to borrow money from numerous banks. In 2006 alone, Dubai's financial institutions granted $43 million in personal loans. Well, Saeed from Lebanon is hardly surprised to discover this news. With the city growing so quickly, people are going to fight to stay above the surface where all of the glamour is. I expect the number in jail will continue to rise. And Jan in Norway shares Saeed's sentiments when it comes to this story. I believe Dubai's crime rate will skyrocket as more people are left behind. The workers will continue to fight for rights, but the higher-ups will continue to deny them. This will lead to catastrophe. Well, across the Atlantic, Derek in California is a bit more optimistic. Dubai is a fast-growing city. Everything will even out eventually. People will begin to realize that you can't buy happiness. Now, believe it or not, it was illegal for a black person to marry a white person in the US state of Virginia until 1967. Tuesday marks the 40th anniversary of the monumental US Supreme Court case that declared Virginia's law against interracial marriage unconstitutional. We decided to hit the streets of Washington, D.C., just next door to Virginia, to see if people had become more accepting since this landmark ruling.
There's more genetic variation within races of the human species than between them. So I could be more genetically unlike another white person than I could be from another black person. So race really isn't that significant scientifically. And so I don't think we should really consider it that significant socially.
The only problems they would have would be being accepted by the community at large, and I think that depends on the community, on who their friends are, who they associate with, where they work. So I think that the problems are still there as a result of the general feelings, residual feelings, but I don't think that they're going to stay. I think they're going to continue easing.
I think there could be problems. It depends on where those children are raised. You know, if they're raised in an area that accepts it, obviously it won't be a problem. But if they're raised in a controversial area where people in the community might be opposed to that, then I can see it causing a huge problem.
I'm not actually sure about like the whole of the United States, but from like a college student point of view, I think it's like more accepted on campus, I think, than it is like outside here. Because I see a lot of people, I see a lot of interracial couples where I go to school, but like not so much, I guess, around here.
Now, many people ride roller coasters for a hair-raising experience, but when you're left stuck upside down for half an hour, the excitement of everything tends to be replaced by nausea, which is exactly what happened to one group of thrill seekers. A dozen riders hung upside down 150 feet above the ground after a power outage caused the X coaster at an amusement park in the US to stop at the highest point in a loop. Park officials were unsure of the cause of the outage and kept the ride closed even after the power resumed. All of the passengers were rescued without any injuries, although one person was taken to hospital complaining of head and neck pain. It's hard to know whether a pain in the neck is technically worse than a pain in the... I'll leave it there. Now, if I say the name Tetris, many of you will probably, and quite rightly, think of those oddly shaped blocks that you have to fit together. Well, with a quirky sense of humor, the Japanese have turned the video game into a comical challenge that forces people into awkward positions. Take a look at this. That's it until next time. Do keep sending your questions and comments and pointers to anything interesting or amusing for Street Talk. Remember, what you see here isn't necessarily the view of Al Jazeera, and some of the content's been edited, but for time and space reasons only. And that's the talk on the street.